Welcome back in the lecture series on applied multiple regression analysis. In my previous lecture, I tried to explain the concept of multiple regression analysis. And while discussing the concept, I said that multiple regression analysis is basically extension of the bivariate regression analysis. What we basically do that in multiple regression analysis, there is one criterion variable and two or more predictor variables. But we combine the two or more predictor variables into a composite variable, and the correlation of the composite variable with the dependent variable, which will be a bivariate correlation, will always be equal to the multiple correlation. That is the correlation of all the predictors taken together with the criterion variable. So basically, the multiple regression requires creating composite scores. But how to create that composite? There are different strategies, and therefore there are different ways of doing multiple regression analysis. And there are three popular strategies of combining the predictor variables, and therefore three ways. Many people say three types of multiple regression analysis, but I will say three strategies of doing multiple regression analysis. One is called simultaneous, standard, or direct method. The other is called the statistical method, in which the most popular is the stepwise, and the third strategy is called hierarchical or regression or sequential regression analysis. So in this lecture, I will discuss all these three strategies, their conceptual base, how they work, and the basic assumptions of the multiple regression analysis. What are the assumptions that need to be fulfilled? Followed by some of the research applications, for what type of research questions multiple regression analysis will be helpful. So let us begin this lecture by discussing the different strategies. As I said, the one strategy is the standard, or also called simultaneous method. In this method, we enter all the IVs together into the equation, and therefore it is also called direct method. The other strategy of combining the IVs or the predictors to get the composite score is the statistical method, and there are three methods in this: forward selection, backward elimination, and stepwise. I will discuss all these three methods in detail. And then the final strategy is sequential or hierarchical method. But let us have a look. So using Venn diagram, I will demonstrate this three strategies. This is, just see the A part. This is the standard, and all are same. All are just replica, but the way variables are entered in the equation will differ, and therefore the results and output will also differ, and therefore there are different strategies of doing multiple regression analysis. The same that I showed the diagram in my previous lecture on the concept of multiple regression. There are three IVs, IV1, IV2, IV3. Taken together, these three variables are explaining A plus B plus C plus D plus E variance in the DV. Now, this is the case of the standard, simultaneous, or direct method. In simultaneous entry method, or in the direct method, or in the standard method, what we do, that when we enter one variable, we remove the contribution of the other predictor variables from this IV. So if IV1 will be entered, this is the contribution of the IV2 in IV1. This has been removed, and only this variance has been attributed to IV. Now when I am adding IV2, the component of IV3, this portion, and the component of IV1, this portion has been removed, and only this portion is attributable to IV. And when I am adding IV3, this component of IV2 will be removed from the this component of the IV2 will be removed from IV3, and only this will be entered. So when I will ask what is the independent unique contribution of the three independent variables in DV, then you will say that this IV1 is explaining A variance, this shaded portion. The IV2 is explaining very small, this C portion only, this shaded portion. And IV3 is explaining a larger portion of variable, that is the E variance. These are just names so that you can easily understand. Now, in the other method, in statistical method, we take some statistical criteria. Say we will enter not all the variables together. When we will enter all the variables together, we will take out the contribution of other IVs. So when IV1 will be entered, the contribution of IV2 and 3 will be removed from it. When IV3 will be entered, the contribution of IV2 and IV1 will be removed from it. But in another method, statistical method, there are different methods. This method uses some statistical criteria. So suppose I will enter that variable first, which is having the highest correlation. So IV1 is having A plus B variance explained. This is having highest correlation. So this was entered first. Then the contribution of IV1 is A plus B. Now when IV2 will be entered, this B has already been explained by IV1, so only C and D portion is remaining to be explained by IV2. So IV2 will be entered and it will explain C and D. And when IV3 will be entered, and what is, so when which variable will be entered next? When we partial out the first variable, and then in the remaining variable, that variable which is explaining the maximum variance will be entered next. And in this way, if you are entering this using statistical criteria, and when I ask what is the contribution of IV1, then you will say it is very important. This is explaining A plus B variance. And what was our answer in this? No, this IV3 is very important. This is explaining more variance. So the answer to the same question will be different depending on how we are creating the composite scores, how we are parceling out the effect of other IVs from the remaining IVs. Third one is the example of sequential method or hierarchical method. This method I will explain. In this method, the researcher decides on the theory, basis of research or theory, which variable is more important and which will be entered first. My theory says that IV1 is the most important variable, followed by IV2. So first I will enter IV1, this is explaining this much of variance. Then I will enter IV2, these are small dots. Probably this will be visible, I hope you will be seeing this. So IV2 is explaining this. And now lastly I will enter IV3, and IV3 has not more than C to be explained. So this is explaining only C. Again, the contribution of IV1, 2, 3 becomes different. So there are three different strategies of combining the IVs or doing the multiple regression analysis. And these three, the name I have already said, I will discuss each of the three one by one. Let us begin with the standard method. There will be some repetition, please bear with me. So in this method, all variables are entered into the equation in one step. And what does it mean? When we are entering all the variables into one step, means we are taking or parceling out the contribution of other IVs from the given IVs. So in this method, each predictor variable is entered after controlling for the effect of all the remaining predictors. So if you are entering x1 and there are three variables, say x1, x2, x3, then x1 will be entered after controlling for the effect of x2 and x3. x2 will be entered after controlling for the effect of x1 and x3. x3 will be entered after controlling for the effect of x1 and x2. However, the total variance explained will always be equal in all the three strategies. Remember, the difference will come only in terms of the unique contribution of the IVs. So total variance explained is the sum of variance accounted for by the orthogonal components of the IVs. Sorry, that is the unique variance of the IVs plus the shared variance. And this provides a full model solutions. Why it is called full model regression or full model solution? Because each and every predictor is made part of the regression equation. We do not omit any of the predictors. And just this picture will show. Suppose there are two predictors, negative affect and openness, and we want to predict self-esteem. Then the unique variance of negative effect is this bigger portion. The unique effect of the openness is this one. But the total variance will be, suppose this is A, this one is B, and this one is C. Unique contribution of negative effect is A, openness is B, but the total variance explained by positive negative effect and openness is A plus B plus C. So it is always the sum of unique variance explained plus the shared variance. This is another example which, so suppose positive effect, negative effect, and now openness. Three variables are there and we are measuring self-esteem. So this is the shared variance, this white portion, and these are the unique variance attributable to each of the variables. This variance is explained by uniquely positive effect, this one is uniquely explained by negative effect, and this one is explained uniquely by openness. But the total variance will be the sum of all the unique variance plus this two shared variance. So this is the standard direct method or simultaneous regression equation. Now come to the statistical method. As I said, the variables are not entered all at one step. So variables are entered one by one, but the criteria of entering is some statistical criteria. So there are different statistical strategies or method. One is called forward selection. So in this method, one variable is added in the regression equation at a time. Not all variables are added together in the regression equation. First, we enter the highest contributing predictors. Say, for example, that predictor which is having the highest bivariate correlation will be entered first. Now, the first variable will be retained in the equation, and then the effect of first variable will be taken out from the other variables. Then second variable having highest partial correlation after taking out the effect of first variable from all the predictors will be entered next. Then the two variables will be controlled from all other predictors and the partial correlation will be obtained, and the next variable having the highest partial correlation will be entered. And this process will continue up till a stage when the entry of or addition of variables results in non-significant contribution. Again, statistical criteria. What contribution is significant and what is not significant. And then we stop. So in this method, all variables, this will not result in full model. Only selected variables will be entered in the equation. Another method or criteria or strategy in statistical approach is backward elimination method. In this method, all the variables are entered in the equation like simultaneous, so we do standard, and then we start removing one variable at a time. Therefore, it is called backward elimination. So we start as a standard or simultaneous, all variables are added together. Then one variable whose removal will result in lowest or non-significant change. If I am removing one variable, suppose there are five variables x1, x2, x3, x4, x5, and removal of say x3 is not making any significant change in the overall prediction, then we will remove. Similarly, we will remove the other, and we will continue this process of removal up to a point when the removal of variable results in significant decrease in the variance explained, and variance explained is always given by the R square, the square value of the correlation. So if the R square value is decreasing significantly by removing any variable, then that variable will again be entered and it will not be removed. So we will remove one variable at a time, and when removal of any variable results in significant decrease, then we will stop. So the process continue until only significant predictors remains in the model. All the non-significant predictors are removed, but one at a time. This is called backward elimination method. But most widely used statistical method is called stepwise regression. And basically, it is a combination of both forward and backward method. Many times I have seen that many students confuse that stepwise method is basically a forward selection method. No, it does both the forward selection as well as backward. So in this stepwise, we begin with forward method and we include one variable in the regression equation at a time. And as I discussed earlier, it stops adding variable when addition suggests that there is no significant increase in R square. The prediction is not improving significantly. But dissimilar to the forward method in which removal of variable is not permitted, in stepwise, after finalizing the model based on forward selection, we will try the backward elimination method also. Now we will begin to evaluate whether the variables which have been entered in the equation, if we remove one or two, whether it is resulting in a non-significant change. So now we begin to evaluate the unique contribution of each variables already entered in the equation and remove that variable whose unique contribution is not significant. Thus, from this point onward, the backward method steps in. So it is the use of both methods, the forward entry and the backward elimination. The next picture will show you how this method works. Suppose we have one DV and three predictors J, K, L. By forward selection method, we entered all the three variables J, K, and L. But when all these three variables are entered, we are seeing that this K variable is having very small unique contribution, this white portion. And therefore, when we will try the backward elimination method, it will suggest that if we will remove the K, the overall R square will not change because we are having this plus this much variance explained, which is very large, and this nominal variance drop will not result in any significant drop in the overall prediction or the variance explained. And therefore, in the first step, the forward selection method, we entered JKL, and then in the backward elimination method we removed K, and the final result will be in the stepwise will be that DV is being best predicted by J and L only. So this is the statistical method called stepwise. So there are three popular methods in the statistical. Now come to the sequential method. It is also called hierarchical regression equation or sequential multiple regression equations. The variable in these methods are also not entered simultaneously. The variables are entered in a sequence, but the entry sequence is not machine driven, not driven by any statistical criteria or mechanical reasoning. It is the entry sequence is decided by the researcher based on the earlier research or earlier theory, and the researcher decides which variable will be entered first. The entry sequence of variables are based on some empirical ground or theory. One thing more to remember here, that unlike the statistical method where one variables are entered at a time, in sequential method we can enter one variable at a time, or we can enter more than one variable at one step, then one variable at the next step, then again more variable at the next step. So in sequential method, all variables are not entered together. Variables are entered. How sequential and statistical are similar? That variables are not entered, all variables are not entered together. One variable is entered at a time in statistical, and in sequential, either we can enter one variable at a time or more than one variable at a time. And another difference is that in sequential, the sequence entry is decided not by some statistical program or computer or software, but it is decided by the researcher based on empirical ground and theory. So what I said is written here, that unlike the statistical method, we can enter or we can allow several variables to be entered at one step. Since a block or set of variables can be entered at each step, this method is also called block entry analysis, because we are entering the variables in blocks. This sequential method is also called sometimes covariance analysis. Why? Because the variables entered in the previous steps are treated as covariates. Their effect is controlled, and therefore it is very similar to the covariance analysis or analysis of covariance in a sense. This method can be used for several purposes. I have written just a few. For example, if we want to control the effect of some other covariates, say confounding variables. Suppose I am predicting stress and health is also influenced by my age, my gender. Then I will enter age and gender in the first step to control its effect, and after controlling I will enter stress in the second step and would try to see how far stress is contributing after controlling the effect of the covariates. So this analysis will be something similar to the covariance analysis. This hierarchical method is also used in moderated regression analysis. I will try to upload one video on moderation and mediation analysis also. But for the time being, moderated regression analysis is a analysis in which we try to examine the moderating or buffering effect of a third variable on the relationship of two variables. Suppose a stress is linked with health. If the stress is higher, health will be poor. But not all people having high stress develop mental health problems. Those people who are having high stress but they are having very good social relationship, social support, they are less likely to develop mental health problem. So the stress health relationship may be moderated by the amount of social support received by the person. So if we want to examine the moderating effect of social support in the stress health relationship, then we can do this using the sequential method. In first step, we will enter stress and social support as predictor. And in the second step, we will create a new variable that will be the product of stress and social support, that is equal or equivalent to the interaction of stress and social support. So yes, stress into social support, or you can say stress by social support like interaction term. And if the interaction term is explaining significant proportion of variance, then we can say that yes, the relationship is moderated, the stress health relationship is moderated by the social support. So we can do this moderated regression analysis also. This can be used to test the incremental validity of the construct. For example, in emotion health research, new constructs are coming. Around 1970s, one construct, alexithymia, came, and it is very popular nowadays that alexithymia explains a large proportion of variance in the health status of an individual. But recently, around one decade back, Baker and colleagues, they introduced the new concept, emotional processing. And they said that emotional processing is an umbrella construct in which all alexithymia and other things may come, but they are different from this. Emotional processing is different from alexithymia. Suppose we want to test whether emotional processing is really predicting more than what is being explained by alexithymia, then we will enter alexithymia at the first step. Then we will enter the new construct, that is emotional processing, in the second step. And after controlling for alexithymia, if the emotional processing is also contributing significantly in explaining health variance, then we can say that this emotional processing construct has an incremental validity also. So this incremental validity can be established using sequential method. Now I have explained the three strategies, and now I am presenting one by one different types of research questions that can be addressed using regression, multiple regression. The first one is predicting one variable from a combined knowledge of several other variables. So if you want to predict health based on the level of stress, lifestyle, social support, and say other variables, then we will perform a simultaneous multiple regression analysis. Why? Because we are interested in knowing the joint contribution of all these variables in predicting health. If we are interested in exploring the relationship of one variable with the other variables, here the two questions are same. Here we are interested in predicting health, and here we are interested in knowing what is the amount of relationship of different predictors with the health. Then again, simultaneous regression will be carried. And sometimes we put this type of questions in our research. So, how much variance in criterion variable can be explained by a set of predictor variables, R square? Again, this is so all these three questions are related with each other. These are different facets of the same questions. And in all these three situations, we will go for simultaneous. Why? Because we are interested in knowing the joint contribution, joint correlation, or joint prediction made by all the predictors. Now, in some research questions, we ask this question like which variables from a larger set of variables are better predictor of a given criterion variable. Then we would try to get a subset of variables, then we can follow some statistical method like stepwise. Only those variables will be entered in the regression which are making better contribution, significant contribution in making prediction in the criterion. All other variables will be removed. Just I have explained this. How much better can we predict a criterion when we add one or more predictor variables to the mix? Again, we can go for statistical. If we are adding one by one in the set, then statistical method can be used. But we can go for sequential also if the sequence is decided or determined by the researcher or us. Now, among a set of predictor variables, which variables account for the largest amount of variance, that is the relatively significant? Then again, a statistical method will be used and R square change will give us the information which variable is predicting most. The relative significance of variable, it is similar to the first question, again a statistical method, and generally we go for stepwise. Now, to examine the moderating effect, I have just explained the moderating effect of one or more variables, then we will definitely go for sequential. How much variance one or more predictor explains after controlling a set of variables when we want to do a correlational analysis similar to covariance analysis, again sequential method will be used. We will enter all the covariates in the first step and then we will enter the predictors. So these are the different research questions and I have tried to put. We can go for same question with other analysis, but these are just guidelines for the viewers that which method will be best suited under what type of research situation or research question. Now, let us conclude by discussing basic assumptions. Like all statistical analysis, some basic assumptions are also there for multiple regression analysis. First thing is that each of the metric variables are normally distributed. So both IV and DV should be normally distributed. And for this, we can go for different tests. I have mentioned this Kolmogorov, Wilks test. Skewness and kurtosis may provide if the skewness kurtosis value is between plus minus 1, then we can say that the IVs and DVs are normally distributed. I will discuss how we test the basic assumptions using real data in some other lecture. The second assumption is that relationship between the metric variables are linear. So linearity is defined when the rate of change in one variable is constant over the entire range of the other variable. So what I mean that the rate of change is constant. For example, just try to follow the cursor. This cursor is changing its place, but the change is at a constant rate. Then this is a linear. But again, follow this cursor. This is changing with a constant rate and then it starts dropping. Now the rate of change is different. Again it starts increasing, again increasing and then again decreasing. The rate of change is not constant here because it was increasing, then it started decreasing, then again increasing. So what we mean by linearity, that rate of change in one variable is constant over the entire range of the other variable. Then the two variables will be called to have linear relationship. The simplest way to check the linearity is to have a scatter plot. If all these scattered dots are showing a linear pattern, as I have shown in this lecture, in the first lecture, then we can assume that the relationship is linear. There are a statistical method also. We can compare the linear and non-linear correlation. So we can compute the linear correlation, then quadratic correlations, then cubic trend. We can fit in the data using different softwares. And if the linear correlation is larger than the non-linear correlations, then the linearity is the most possible thing, and therefore we can say that the relationship is linear. But suppose if quadratic trend is fitting more and the value of correlation increases, then we can refute the assumption that the relationship is non-linear, it is quadratic. Third assumption is homoscedasticity, it is also called homogeneity of variance. So this assumption says that the variance in the outcome variable, dependent variables, should be similar across the range of the IV. Suppose in experimental approach, if you are having two IVs label gender, one male and one female, then if the variance of the given score in male and female are equal, then we can say that the homogeneity of variance exists. But here the DV is continuous and IV may also be continuous. So there are different methods to test, but the general method of testing homogeneity of variance is one Leibniz test, but here some other methods may also be used. These are the general assumptions associated with different parametric statistics. What is different from other is the independence of errors. The multiple linear regression analysis assumes that in making prediction of the outcome variables, errors are inevitable, but those errors are not correlated. Error in making prediction for individual 1 is not related with the error that is made in making prediction of the individual 2. If the errors are correlated, then it will be called autocorrelation. So whether errors are correlated or not, dependent on each other or not, we conduct a test, Durbin-Watson test. It is also in SPSS and in other software also. And this value ranges from 0 to 4, but 2 is considered good. It suggests that the errors are independent, but any value ranging from 1.5 to 2.5 is acceptable, and we can assume that errors are independent. But if value is beyond this range, then the assumption of independence of errors are not. Sometimes I have seen my students asking that if error, if assumptions are not met, sir, then we cannot do the computation. So I would like to make it clear that failing to satisfy the assumption does not mean that our answer is wrong. We can do the computation, but it means that the solution may not be reporting the actual relationship, the actual strength, and computation can be. So some of the assumptions, if violated, they may not influence the generalizability of the results, but violation of some other assumptions do have significant influence. I will discuss all this in separate lecture, how to test assumptions and how to deal with the violation of assumptions. That will be a separate lecture. One day or the other day, I would try to upload this video also. There are other issues that should be taken care of while performing multiple regression. One issue is called multicollinearity. When the predictors are highly correlated with each other, say zero point 0.8, zero point 0.9, then they are basically duplicate of each other. They will not be making any significant contribution because they are having very high overlap. So both variables may be important for making prediction, but because of their high correlation, the multiple regression analysis say stepwise will select one and remove the other. So multicollinearity is a big problem, and there are different way to handle this multicollinearity. But let us first understand how we assess the multicollinearity in the multiple regression analysis. And what problem is created by this issue? This multicolority basically distort the actual strength of relationship between the predictors and the criterion, leading to the likelihood that our interpretation of relation will be incorrect. Why? Because of the issue of multicongruity. And the worst case is when the variables are perfectly correlated, then regression cannot be computed. If you are doing it with SPSS, a warning will come that you cannot do because the matrix inversion is not possible. How to test whether multicongruity is an issue in our data or not? Then there are several indices. One index is tolerance. It is the value of the R square of IVs subtracted from 1. So, for example, the tolerance, there are three variables, say x1, x2, x3 for making prediction. Then the tolerance of x1 will be, we will predict x1 by the variables x2 and x3. There will be one capital R, multiple correlation, we will square it, and then we will subtract it from 1. If the tolerance value is less than 1, then there is a problem of collinearity. Another index is variance inflation ratio. This is just the reciprocal of the tolerance. 1 by tolerance gives the value of VIF. And if 1 by tolerance is greater than 10, 1 by 0.10 will be 10. Then if it is greater than 10, then there is a problem. Another index is called condition number. This is basically the square root of maximum eigenvalue divided by the square root of minimum eigenvalue. And we do not have to do calculation, fortunately, because the statistical software, they do it for us. SPSS is having this output as option. And if condition number is greater than 30, then the problem of multicongruity is there. So we will be required to test whether the problem of multicongruity is there or not. If the problem of multicongruity is there, the results will not be interpretable. They will not give correct inference. And there are many ways to handle multicongruity. One way is to do factor analysis of the different predictors and club them in different factors so that the highly correlated values together come in one factor and they produce a few orthogonal latent variables, and those orthogonal latent variables may be used as predictors. This is one approach. Another approach is recently researchers have developed alternatives for handling this issue, and this can be done by doing commonality analysis, dominance analysis, and we can not handle the problem of multicolority, but we can know how far multicolority has distorted the results. So I will discuss the calculations and interpretations of commonality, dominance analysis, and this in another lecture. Another problem, sorry, is the problem of outliers and missing values. So outliers should be removed, and generally the multivariate outliers are required here, not the univariate outliers like done in univariate statistics. But if the outliers do not change the R square value by more than 2%, then generally we can retain the outliers. It is if it is not changing. So we will do two analysis, one with outliers, one without outliers, and the result is almost similar. Then some researchers suggest then we can keep the outliers, but it is always better that if we are having a larger sample, remove the outliers. But we are having a smaller sample, then we can go for this strategy. Similarly, missing values, if they are few, they can be removed or they may be replaced using mean values. There are some other data requirements also. First, the criterion variables should be measured on a continuous scale. I discussed it in the beginning of this lecture. So if the data is on interval or ratio scale, then we can do multiple correlation analysis. Otherwise, if the criterion is a categorical variable, then we will do logistic regression analysis, not multiple regression analysis. Similarly, multiple regression requires a larger number of observations. So the sample size should be bigger. The number of cases must be substantially higher than the number of predictor variables. And there are no general rules. For example, a few researchers suggest that one should keep minimum of 5 times as many participants as predictor variables. A more acceptable ratio is 10 is to 1. But some people argue that this should be as high as 40 is to 1 for some statistical selection methods like statistical methods. So we must have continuous criterion. The sample size should be large. There must not be the issue of missing values. Missing values are fewer, then it should be removed or replaced. And there should not be outlier and multi-correlate should not be there. Then we can perform the regression analysis. So thank you very much for listening and watching my videos. In the next lecture, I would demonstrate how to conduct, how to do multiple regression analysis using SPSS, how to interpret the obtained results, and how we tabulate and report the results in the real research setting. Thank you very much. Hope to see you soon.